A little more political talk. A recent column by Joan Venaki in the Boston Globe examined the reaction by Democrats to Governor Baker's comments on Syrian refugees. In it, she said, mesmerized by the governor's poll numbers, the opposition party is generally happy to keep him happy. For now, Massachusetts Democrats are simply trying to draft onto Baker's popularity, which follows him everywhere. Joining me now for more on this and a few other topics are Mara Dolan, a Democratic political analyst, and Rochelle Cohen, editorial page editor of the Boston Herald. Mara and Rochelle, thanks for being here.
Sure.
So, Mara, let me start with you. Is that a fair criticism of Massachusetts Democrats, with the possible exception of Congressman Seth Moulton? Are they too meek when it comes to Governor Baker? And is that why he's so popular?
Well, there is certainly a lot of dissatisfaction within many members of the Democratic Party that they want a more robust opposition party. They understand that Charlie Baker is popular, and we can talk more about that later, as I think we're going to. But they want a party that looks at the ways in which he differs substantially from their own democratic values. This is a guy who is privatizing. He is talking about raising fares on the T, particularly for people with disabilities. He wants to ban Syrian refugees from coming here.
Well, that's...
And there was an executive order that he issued in March requiring all agencies that fall under the executive branch to deregulate, and it stipulates that no new regulation may exceed the federal requirements, which means that nothing in Massachusetts can have a higher standard than the federal government does. So a lot of Democrats want a more robust opposition that points these things out.
Shelley?
Clearly, some Democrats do. On the other hand, if you're talking about legislative Democrats, they've been really happy with this governor. Far happier than they were with Deval Patrick. Here's a guy that I think the House Speaker and the Senate President think they can really deal with, really get some things done, who's fiscally responsible, and certainly the House side of this equation has always respected that sense of fiscal responsibility.
Do you think, I want to get to you because you're shaking your head vigorously, but do you think that one reason...
I could shake my head vigorously after the banning refugees too, yes.
So you think that legislative Democrats like working with them. Is that in part because, I remember hearing complaints that then Governor Patrick was making an end run around the legislature, introducing big proposals, catching them by surprise.
Was notorious for doing it, his way or the highway. And not realizing that at the end of the day, somebody had to count noses, and there were no noses to be counted if the Speaker and the Senate President weren't going to be with you.
All right, Mara, now it's your turn. Get ready to shake your head. Rochelle?
I think that's a popular myth in the media, that the Democratic legislators are happy with Governor Baker. And of course, I can't speak to individual legislators, but I can say that.
House Speaker. That's one individual legislator.
But I can say this, that the Democrats see someone who has become increasingly Reagan-esque. He's a very charming man. He tells very good stories about people he's known, families he's known. They've gotten through hard times. He's very emotional. He expresses a lot of concern. But at the same time, he's turning around and he's not doing for homeless people what he said he was going to do. He's cutting service on the T. He's gutting regulations. He's privatizing, and they don't like those things. They're not happy with those things.
Let me shake my head a lot on that. I have not seen service on the T cut. We may get some.
They're talking about it.
A night owl service, which is subsidized at a rate of $13 a person.
Night owl service, also commuter rail service, right? The stop that I get on and off at Swampscott.
Cutting the ride, exactly.
Well, there
raising fees for people with disabilities, raising fees on the most vulnerable.
Ride, which
yes,
is
on the
also,
ride, which matters.
But sometimes somebody needs to tend to the bottom line, and when you're in a hole, as they say, you have to stop digging.
Why are we tending to the bottom line on the backs of people with disabilities? One of the things that Governor Baker is going to have to do next year is answer how he will vote on the proposed millionaires tax, which would raise taxes on households making $1 million or more a year, to spend that money on transportation and education so that we can have a robust public transportation system and we don't have to raise fees on people with disabilities. That is shameful.
Shelley, now gets the last word before we go national. You get the final comment on Baker.
What is shameful is trying to continue this myth that somehow Charlie Baker is Ronald Reagan in disguise. He actually happens to be fiscally responsible, and that's not a bad thing. And I think you're going to see that tax proposal go down big time.
All right, I want to go out for beers with you guys after the show and talk more about Charlie Baker, but let's go national for just a little bit. Are you too surprised that Donald Trump is more popular here in Massachusetts than in New Hampshire when it comes to Republican primary voters?
Not really. This is a very, very quirky and very tiny Republican Party. When you're talking about 11% of registered voters and poor David Paleologos, who actually has to go out and find them, anything can happen. So the numbers don't surprise me at all. And I think, interestingly, Rubio is coming on strong in both places. And I think that's the number you want to
Mara,
be
I'm going to go to you with a different question.
okay.
So Trump has been under fire, as you both know, for saying that he saw thousands and thousands of Muslims cheering the 9/11 attacks in Jersey City, New Jersey. Let's take a quick look.
Watts in Jersey City, New Jersey, where thousands and thousands of people were cheering as that building was coming down.
Now, despite the fact that there is no evidence that this actually happened, it's been kicked around a lot, no one can come up with anything, Trump is standing by his comments. He's actually accusing the media of covering up the evidence that supports his claim, which led CNN to pose what I thought was a kind of a surreal question the other day. I think we have a look at a screen grab. Does Donald Trump transcend the truth? Mara, what do you say? Does Donald Trump transcend the truth?
Well, he wants to. I'm not sure how long he can sustain that, but everyone always says it about Donald Trump, and here he is. It wasn't just that. There was something that came out today in the New York Times about the River of Blood. Did you see this? This was a memorial that he built at a golf course on the Potomac, where he alleged that Northerners and Southerners died in such great numbers that the river turned into a river of blood. I am surprised that he's doing as well as he is in Massachusetts, because he is running a fundamentally racist campaign. Either he's a racist or he is appealing to racism, and that in itself is racist. So I'm disappointed.
We have to
just
leave it
such
there.
a simple,
Unfortunately, we got to leave it there. I'll meet you out back after the show. We can continue this.
Deal.
Rochelle
Deal.
Cohen, Mara Dolan, thank you both.